Welcome, everybody, to the Crawford County, Illinois Ghost Hunter Society podcast, episode number 1. This is our very first episode today. I'd like to give Midnight Syndicate a special thanks for allowing us to use their music. All rights reserved. Their music is used with permission. I've got Donovan Hall with me here tonight. We are both going to be hosting this podcast. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, and I'll kind of give it over to Donovan here in a minute, but he's going to be producing this podcast also, so I'd like to kind of give him a special thanks for producing the podcast and helping make all this happen. So I'm going to kind of throw this over to Donovan now.
Well, thanks, Jason. And I mean, I know we're both excited for the podcast, and I hope everyone is, but I know we're really excited to kind of have another outlet to talk about the different topics. And this podcast will be about, paranormal, different news, all kinds of equipment that we use, our investigations as well. We'll review investigations, different evidence, and also crypto. Not a lot of people know that the Crawford County, Illinois Ghost Hunters actually investigate crypto claims around the local kind of Midwest area. So we'll definitely talk about that. But I just know I'm really excited to be able to start this podcast with you.
Yeah, for sure. And everybody out there, I just want to let you know to check out our social media sites also while you're listening. We are at Facebook. It's facebook.com/Crawford County Ghost Hunters. Our web address is crawfordcountyghost.org. And we are also on Instagram at Crawford County Ghost Hunters. So you can check that out while you're listening to the podcast.
Definitely. And of course, I think without further ado, welcome to the first ever episode of the Crawford County, Illinois Ghost Hunter Society podcast.
And I am Jason Snyder. I'm the founder and team leader of the Crawford County, Illinois Ghost Hunter Society. And like Donovan said, we're gonna do a lot with this podcast as far as introduce you guys to the places we investigate, let you know our investigation results on here, and give you kind of behind the scenes, kind of viewpoint and talk that you don't hear during our investigations because we go live a lot of times. So we're going to get a lot of that information out to the public that you don't normally hear about what goes on at some of our investigations. So it's going to be pretty cool, and I'm excited to be here with our first podcast. So.
Absolutely. I think we're both really excited. And of course, as you say, I'm Donovan Hall. And I said earlier, some of you may not know me like Jason. Jason's, has years and years of experience over me. I'm just have a couple of years, but I am a paranormal investigator. I also do a lot of our EVP recordings and review a lot of our audio files. So I guess that would be kind of my specialty. If you guys didn't know me, hi again. I do EVPs. Like I said, I do a lot of the times you'll catch me on those live feeds. But like Jason said, this podcast will be whether it be behind the scenes information or whether it be more just kind of more detailed information that you're not necessarily getting during a live feed, or it could be a great way for us to talk about a location, if we're at a location that doesn't necessarily have signal as well, because we can be kind of out in the middle of nowhere and signal can be scarce sometimes. So this podcast will touch on all kinds of different stuff in the paranormal. And I know I primarily am focused and interested in paranormal events, but Jason, I know that the Crawford County Ghost Hunter Society, we also do crypto research as well, if you kind of want to talk about different things in the crypto realm as well.
Yeah, that's right. We not only hunt ghosts and spirits, but we also get called into I mean, you wouldn't believe the things we get called into. We get called into any type of cryptozoology type of event, where people have experienced Sasquatch or Bigfoot, or we've even been called into like events where people have experienced aliens and UFO abductions. So it's not just ghosts and hauntings that we cover. We cover a very large spectrum of the paranormal world here. So we're going to be talking about a lot of that during this podcast. I mean, we may throw in some UFO stuff one night, and we've actually investigated several cases of, UFO encounters, alien encounters. We went on a couple Bigfoot hunts. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about that you guys don't normally get to hear and see. So I think it's going to be pretty cool. And we're going to give you like kind of the history of the Crawford County, Illinois Ghost Hunter Society too. Do you have anything to touch on, Donovan, on the crypto stuff before I go into that?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I honestly, it was kind of a surprise to me, which is one thing I really wanted to at least have you explain, because when I first joined, I had no idea that you guys or the Crawford County Illinois Ghost Hunter Society also dabbled in the crypto as well. So that was kind of a surprise to me, because I know we had a meeting with an individual talking about Bigfoot sightings, and again, it was interesting to me and kind of shocking to me, and I thought maybe not a lot of people may know that, so I thought that was kind of important to talk about a little bit as well.
Yeah, it's definitely something we investigate, and my co-team leader Jason Dickerson, which we're gonna have a lot of our team members on this podcast also, kind of introduce you to the team type of thing here eventually. But yeah, Jason Dickerson, I kind of put him in charge of that. He's real into the crypto stuff too, so he kind of does the reports on that, keeps track of different Bigfoot encounters and sightings. And believe it or not, I mean, there's been quite a few in Crawford County that we've documented and actually put on the map. So it's pretty neat to see that, to put pins on there and see where all people have encountered these strange creatures, that could be Bigfoot, Sasquatch, skunk apes. They've got a lot of different names, but yeah, we do it all. So we're going to get into all that during the podcast and everything. So it's going to be something, for everybody to listen to.
Absolutely. And and I think that's a great thing too about the podcast. If you may not necessarily be interested in spirits or ghosts, but there could be an episode where we had a crypto report, or something happens in the news of crypto, where we can talk about that. And that's the great thing is too, we'll talk about news as well, and different things that have been posted. So it won't just necessarily be about our investigations and stuff. It'll primarily be that, but it can also be about the news as well. And of course, to keep up with us even further, we do have a Facebook page, which is Crawford County Ghost Hunters Society on Facebook. So you can go ahead and Facebook, give us a like, a follow. We post a lot of stuff on there, whether it be updates when we're going live, different polls, all kinds of different stuff. Pictures. I know Jason recently just posted a bunch of pictures. Jason really likes to let everyone know kind of where we're investigating, and sometimes you give a little bit of a history of locations as well. So definitely follow us on Facebook. We just got a new website as well, CrawfordCountyGhostHunters.org. So you can go on there. We also have a gallery there of old investigations that we put up there. We have an About Us page. EVP library as well, which I think currently we only have one. I think we're going to be adding to that. But another thing is all the different events that we do. And Jason, I know there was a successful event you guys started a couple, or how long have you been doing? I know you guys have been doing the ghost tours, and it's usually kind of a big thing for you guys that allows us to afford equipment and buying kind of the new updated tech.
Yeah, we've been doing the ghost tours for a long time. I probably started those in 2000, and we've been doing ghost tours ever since then. Ghost and haunting tours around the Crawford County area. We've also done like extended ghost tours, into Indiana now, where we go to places like Hell's Gate, Spooklight Hill, Edna Collins Bridge. We have a lot of places we visit over in the Indiana side too, since we're kind of right on the Illinois-Indiana border here. That's a cool thing. We get to investigate in Illinois and Indiana, and it kind of opens up a lot more, a lot more locations for us and a lot more possibilities, since we get to go into two states, and investigate a lot. So, but yeah, our haunted tours have been pretty successful for the past 20 years, I guess you could say here. And there's been a lot of people, come to them over the years that came into the tours, really skeptical, and they don't believe in ghosts, and they just want to come to see something. And a lot of times they leave believers. Trust me. I mean, the one of the first tours, I don't know if I've told you this story, Donovan, about what happened at Harmony Cemetery on one of our first tours. I
don't think you have.
Okay. Well, this was probably back in It was at least the first or second tour we did, maybe 2001, somewhere in there. It had to be probably the second year. We had a huge turnout. I mean, people from all over, and this guy was from, I believe, Texas, and he was out in Harmony Cemetery, and he walked out in there, and he stepped on this grave out there, and ended up, it looked like he got thrown off of this grave, and the whole group seen it, or I wouldn't even talk about it, but the whole group ended up witnessing this event. And I mean, it freaked people out. We come to find out, we looked down, and he was standing on a Navy veteran's grave, and he happened to be a Marine. So he thought, oh, they got mad and threw him off this grave. Yeah, I'm telling you what, you heard people getting in cars and gravel peeling out and
Oh, I
doors
can
slamming.
believe it.
We lost half of our tour that night. We've had a lot of events happening on haunted tours. It was pretty cool.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I know I've gone to, I think it's been to 2 ghost tours. I think the 2020 year ghost tours will be my third of helping with it. But I think the great thing about the ghost tours is when you take us through a location, or we go to a location, you don't tell us necessarily any activity that you have caught there in the past. You tell us, you say the history and different things, and then you kind of wait for the activity later on, because you don't want that to necessarily persuade someone to say, oh, I think I saw this, or I think I saw that, while they're there. And I think that's a really great thing, because it kind of creates more genuine experiences with the people that actually attend the tours. And the other great thing is they are allowed to use all the actual ghost hunting equipment that we actually use on our investigations, whether it be our recorders, our digital recorders, our thermals, meters, and different things like that we have. They're able to, get their hands on that and use that while they're at those locations as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's a lot of stuff I don't tell people about our haunted tours. A lot of the things people experience there, like you said, I kind of keep some of it secret to see if other people experience it, because once you tell somebody, then it's already predetermined and already preset in their minds that, oh, this could happen. So I like to have events happen, that I know are true and legit. And if you don't tell somebody half the stuff, and then they say, hey, I had this happen, and it's the same experience that somebody else has had over the past 10 years in that same spot, that pretty much validates things. But yeah, it's a good opportunity for the people to come out and, use our equipment, like you're saying, and kind of get a feel for what we do, and that kind of leads me into, what we actually do as a paranormal investigation team, to kind of introduce you to, you guys out there listening to us tonight. Our team scientifically investigates claims of paranormal phenomena and any type of paranormal activity. It could be at houses. I mean, we've investigated everything from boats to hotels to bodies of water to cemeteries to, you name it, we probably investigated it. And we try to take a scientific approach to everything we do, with our investigations. And I think that's what separates us from a lot of people, because there's so many people out there that just want to say everything is a ghost. It's like, and we try to find explanations for those things, that debunk, try to debunk every event that we encounter that we think, could be paranormal. We try to debunk it with a natural explanation. And then only when we can't explain it, we sit back and say, man, that could have been something pretty strange.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's what, like you said, that's really important. And that's what separates us a little bit. I mean, I know, with the TV shows, and there's so much different things in paranormal where, and fear can play a huge part into whether or not you think you see something or not. And I think something that's fantastic with our group is we go in with a calm mind. We look into debunking things. We don't necessarily go and assume something, it was a paranormal event, and then test it again. We'll debunk it. If something happens to us while we're on an investigation or at a location, an unexplained event, we'll go and we'll try and debunk it. We'll do different things. We'll replay it. We'll go back to the exact same spots. We'll do exactly what we did again. See if there was an environmental change, that could have caused that. So I think that's something that's really, sets us apart, is we really, really focus on science, whether it be the temperature in the room, metal getting smaller or larger, making a bunch of bumps in the night with older houses and different things like that, creaks on stairs. I know there's been a lot of different times where we've been to locations and people say they keep consistently hearing footsteps behind them as they're going down steps, like someone's following them. And I know we've been able to debunk some of that, where we hit a specific step the right way and you hear it. It's just the wood panels up on the flooring just kind of react with those steps. And I think that's really important with a paranormal group, is we don't necessarily go in just looking to record whatever evidence we have, claim it as paranormal. We really go in, dissect everything, make sure there isn't a scientific explanation, and then if there isn't, we just kind of look at each other and say, who knows? It could be paranormal. We have no explanation for why it did that.
Right. Now I want to kind of touch on something you mentioned there. You hit on something real good there. You said fear. And I've noticed over the past, 20 years of investigating paranormal occurrences, I've been around a lot of teams, seen a lot of my own team members come and go. I mean, it's crazy how many, how my team has changed over the years, as far as the members on my team and, the people I've got rid of, the people that have stayed. And going into fear and talking about the way other teams and other paranormal investigators and ghost hunters approach haunted locations, I think some of them go in with a completely wrong attitude, like you talked about. It's the psychological mindset of the team and of the people going in there that determines the outcome of that investigation, I've learned. Because, I mean, if a team goes in with a predetermined mindset, oh, this place is haunted, it's the most evil haunted place in the world, which I'm not going to mention any names of who does that, but there's a lot of them out there. And, you're going to get those results because you're going to want those results. But if we go in to try to debunk everything, and we go in with an unbiased mindset, we let the place show itself to us. We don't let our predetermined ideas get in the way of determining whether a place is actually haunted or not. Because I've said this 100 times: there are more haunted people out there than there are haunted locations. Like people, their mindsets, it's like they themselves are haunted because they think the activity is real. And when 90% of the time, I'm not saying it's in their head 90% of the time, but it's an explainable, debunkable, source that has a natural explanation. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad you kind of talked about that little fear thing there, because it really is the mindset of the people investigating that determines the outcome. And I don't think a lot of teams realize that, they don't look at it that way when they go into a place. So
Absolutely. And I think, like you were touching on, and one thing that we really kind of focus on is, when you're in pitch darkness for so long, your eyes can kind of play tricks on you, where your eyes are just kind of shifting or trying to adjust to that darkness, where you may think you actually see something that's not actually there. Or, and like you said, if when people go into a location, and that's something that it's really important for us, is we go in, like you were saying earlier, it's not a haunted location, it's a location where these weird things happens. Is there reasons why it happens? If there is, or if there isn't, that's for us to go and to try and test out. But it's kind of that idea of, you see what you want to see. If you go into that location, it's kind of that psychological, oh, this place is haunted, as you touched on. There's a ghost. There's definitely a ghost here. There's an old lady ghost here. And with that combination of you being in the dark for 30, 40 minutes, your eyes, messing with you with it being so dark, or your peripheral vision, you may accidentally think you see something out of your peripheral vision. Boom. It can easily, your brain can easily go to that connection. And that's something that we really try and get away from when we go into a location.
oh yeah, we try to, like I said, we try to debunk everything, and science is everything. I mean, but the thing, all these teams, they say they take a scientific approach. Do they? Some of them do, some of them don't. I mean, But you have to be able to prove stuff in science too, and have and duplicate results. That's the bad thing about the paranormal is a lot of times if it is a paranormal occurrence, we can't reproduce these results. We can't put these results in a controlled setting and reproduce them and study them like you would, other things. So it's extremely hard, to investigate some of these events and the phenomena that occurs in some of these places, like ghost lights or strange sounds or myths or something. It's like you've got to set up a controlled environment and measure the environmental changes and see if these ghosts and spirits actually affect the environment in some sort of a way too. And then you got to find out how they infect the environment. Do they cause a disruption, in the electromagnetic field? Do they, cause temperature drops at the same time? Are they, producing negative or positive ions, on our meters? Are they, producing some type of radioactivity? We've got to figure out what type, of disturbances these ghosts or spirits cause, and then try to measure that on meters. And it's hard to do. It's hard to scientifically determine that, a ghost is what caused my EMF meter to spike to red. 90% of the time, it's a cell phone or somebody's radio or something natural, a power line overhead. And it's just, I won't get into EMF meters tonight, but that's a whole new podcast there and topic. But
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And just the way that, the electromagnetic fields can affect people's, brains as well, and can make people have that kind of that feeling that someone's watching them or someone's around them. So it's really, important. And I think that's one big thing we really do is, every location we go into, we try and get EMF reading of everywhere and take note of where these locations are, so we can kind of try and connect that to some of the paranormal events that people have been claims. And I think the other great thing is, unless we have substantial evidence to support that this claim is actual paranormal, I think we do a really good job of not necessarily labeling something as haunted. If we find some explanation for some of the claims, some for the others, we'll say maybe, maybe not. There's some unexplained events that happen there, but we don't come right out and just label it too quickly as haunted or there's definitely ghosts here. And I think that's another big thing that we definitely try to do as well.
Yeah, for sure. I'll tell you what, I call it the early days of ghost hunting, but paranormal research and ghost hunting has come such a long way since, the early days. When I first started, like back in 96 is when I first started investigating, paranormal occurrences. I was actually like 16. I'd drive around and investigate tales of local folklore and places that people would report, haunting like activity, from like your crybaby bridges to, all the places where handprints are supposed to appear on your vehicle when you flash your lights 3 times. And there's a lot of folklore and myth, around some of that place, but those places anyway, but there's a lot of stuff, from back in the early days that we thought was ghost or paranormal activity that we now know is just dust particles. There was this big thing back in, the 2001, 2002, where every orb, you get on a photograph as a ghost, and it's a paranormal anomaly. And I mean, there was a few of us that was like, I don't think this is right. We went out, started kicking up dust and even blowing fans. We went back, back in those early days, we took dust and actually threw it into the air, blew it with fans. We kicked it up. We tried to see what dust particles would look like on the camera. Come to find out, these orbs are dust particles. 90% of everything, that people were saying were spirit orbs or these balls of light with even tails behind them. They said, well, if it's got a tail behind it, it's got to be a ghost orb. And well, that's just a dust particle with an air current behind it is what that is.
Right.
It's
Right.
caused from the slow shutter speed of your camera. And there's that idea, though, stuck with so many groups over the years that people still think orbs are ghosts and they're paranormal anomalies. Now, I'm not saying that all orbs, I guess there's that 1%, in there that might be paranormal. you get some type of illuminating ball of light that causes its own light source, and you physically see it with your eyes, and you take a picture of it. I mean, there's stuff like that, but most of it's dust. So
And I think one thing also that, I mean, I know that I didn't necessarily fully understand when I first started was the amount of science and data and technology that is actually used to record all these different surroundings. You know, they're coming out with new scientific devices that are able to record temperature, vibration, and all this different stuff, and it records it onto the device, and where you're actually able to pull that into a computer and look and trying to find trends and correlations between these different environmental phenomena, of trying to connect that with a potential ghost claim or a ghost event that you, or paranormal, I should say, event that happened within that same kind of time frame. Or you try and find those trends where, oh, there's this vibration, a drop in temperature, a spike in EMF, a paranormal event happens. It's amazing, and it's a little bit overwhelming originally, kind of at first, whenever everything is kind of shoved at you. And like you said, with the equipment that goes with it, we could do a whole other podcast about all the different types of equipment that goes with it, all the different theories of equipment, the way they use, whether it be kind of old school equipment like dowsing rods or like the new school equipment. And like you said, we can do an entire episode on that, but I just think that was something that was fascinating to me when I very first started, when I first met you guys, and you kind of showed me everything with it, just all the different science and data and everything that is actually recorded during an investigation.
yeah, you're absolutely right, and we will probably do a lot of episodes, a lot of podcasts on just the equipment, like you're talking about, and how we do use the equipment to measure, paranormal activity, and go over a lot of that. So we'll get into some of that, and definitely, in our future episodes here and shows, we'll cover some of that. As an education too, I would like to cover a lot of educational stuff, kind of put out like an EVP 101 podcast. We're going to do a lot of stuff with this, guys. So definitely keep listening and tuning in. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tell your friends to subscribe to our YouTube channel, so we can get a lot of people listening to this information. Because even if you're a ghost hunting group out there, a paranormal group out there, and you've just started, we're going to be putting out a lot of information regarding how to use the equipment, properly. There's so many bad ideas out there from these TV shows.
Absolutely. And I think one really good thing as well, and I know this is completely different thing, but just the way that you go and investigate as well. And we'll talk about that as well, but not going to antagonizing a spirit or calling it out. I think that can actually affect more negative things than good. But again, like you said, we have so much material that we can talk about so much different things with just completely other podcasts. But one thing I know we were really wanting to do, and I think this is something that Jason and I both kind of had a discussion over, was if we did a podcast, how would we kind of get more of our community interaction with it, so we can kind of make them feel like they're also kind of contributing to the podcast. And we were talking about doing maybe like a live call-ins. Well, with a podcast, it's kind of hard to do a live call-in, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk about different questions that we get, on whether it be on our Facebook or on our website. We'll definitely post something looking for those questions, but I figured we could kind of answer some of those questions kind of towards the end of every episode. And if we get so many that we think we really want to talk about, we'll definitely have an episode going over everyone's questions. But I think that's one thing I think we definitely wanted to touch on, and really get our watchers and our listeners now for the podcast really involved with it more. So to kind of go into that, one of our questions was, what was the wildest investigation that we had ever done? I know for me, I've only been doing this for 2 years, but it was probably one of my first full-scale investigations, which was TJ's Cafe, which it was the second time you guys had gone around to that location, and just all the different odd occurrences that we had we just had no explanation for, it really kind of got me to sink my teeth into the whole experience, and really kind of got me even more interested. Was my first full-scale investigation. We had lights turning on and off. We caught all kinds of EVPs. We caught unexplained objects vibrating at specific times of the night that we tried to debunk. We tried so many different things, and we just couldn't figure it out. And even the first investigations I know you guys did, where you guys thought you guys caught a full body apparition in a reflection in one of the machines there. I believe it was a soda machine, I believe.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of reflections in machines. I like, that's one of my rules and protocol. If it's a reflective surface, I have to throw it out. So I'm not a big fan of that that evidence. But yeah, if usually when it's a window or any type of reflective surface, it's a result of pareidolia and matrixing, and I don't like any reflective surface evidence. But yeah, we got a lot of strange things that night. But I don't even know where to start with that question. That's like my my most dreaded question there, because I've had so many weird things, over the years that has happened. I can't pick out, one place in particular. It was like, oh my gosh, this was crazy. But I mean, I've had a lot of weird things happen over the years. I mean, I guess one time I was at this old funeral home we were investigating in West Union, Illinois. And it was me and another guy. He hadn't been on my team for very long. It was Halloween night, and we were investigating this place, and we set up our equipment. I don't know. It was probably an hour and a half into the investigation. We were sitting there, lights out. Nothing was happening. All of a sudden, we hear scratching upstairs, like stuff breaking, like something hitting the walls. It sounded like something was just throwing stuff around up there, boxes flying around. I mean, I thought like somebody has broke into this place, or somebody's like up there just scaring us. There wasn't anybody up there that we knew of. So I went running up there, and I look around. I went through every closet. I went through the hallways. I looked under the beds. I looked everywhere. There was absolutely nothing broken. There was nothing out of place. There was nobody up there, and I have no explanation for what caused any of those sounds or the event that took place that night. I mean, it literally sounded like there was like 2 or 3 people up there just throwing stuff on purpose and like breaking glass. It was weird. I mean, that's one of the things that kind of stands out in my mind.
Yeah.
And then one of them, a couple of them are more recent events, but we're gonna do an episode on those places. So I'm gonna talk about those when we get to them. But
yeah, that's right. A little bit of a kind of a teaser, a little bit for an upcoming podcast. So yeah, definitely keep listening, because I know that I unfortunately couldn't go, but I know you went to a location recently, and a lot of stuff, unexplained stuff, happened. And I'm definitely interested in kind of hearing your perspective on everything that happened there. So definitely keep listening, everyone, and we'll definitely have a podcast centered and focused on that specific location. And just for our last question here, we can kind of end it on this. I know we did a little bit of something like this year with the ghost tours, but have we ever thought about organizing bus trips to specific places like Volusia and Bobby Mackey's? And I know this year I wasn't necessarily involved too much, but I know you and Dickerson had kind of talked about doing the van tours and getting that set up and everything like that. And I think one thing that's important with that is, the Volusia Axe Murder House and, Bobby Mackey's, that's kind of quite a little bit of a drive for necessarily a bus tour. And I think, it would be something where, our ghost tours that we do in October are our main source of paying for our equipment, and if a lot of our equipment also we pay out of our own pocket, which I think is important to touch on too. But that could be I don't know. I mean, Jason, I know we kind of touched on doing something kind of miniature with that, with the van ghost tours as well.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to try to get some more stuff going next year. We did, like you said, we did do van tours this year, kind of haunted road trips where we went around to different locations in Indiana. And it was a long trip. I'm not gonna lie, a long bumpy trip. And, we had a lot of fun though. We had a lot of good people on our tours, and we went to, like I say, had to Collins Bridge, Hell's Gate, Spooklight Hill. But that's the first time we've done haunted tours where we've loaded people up and took them, out of state to some different locations. I think it went over pretty well, but we were kind of kicking the idea around. I'm glad somebody did ask that question about, if let's say we want to investigate Waverly Hills, maybe let so many fans out there go with us, and maybe buy a ticket to come. If we have to have 10 people there and we take 7 of us, let the rest of the fans jump in there for the rest of our numbers we need, and maybe load up the van and head that way. I mean, that'd be something kind of cool too we could do. So maybe something people can look forward to.
Yeah, something that we can maybe kind of work on and kind of figure that out a little bit more in the near future. But I think with that, I think we're going to end our first podcast here. Again, everyone, thanks for listening. Hopefully this is the first of many. We get a good kind of reception from you guys as far as people watching it and listening. We're definitely putting this on YouTube. I know we will probably upload it on SoundCloud as well, so we can kind of have our most recent couple podcasts on our website, so people can listen to that on our website. And again, remember, you can check us out on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube. All you got to do is just search Crawford County Ghost Hunter Society, and our profiles will pop up. And don't forget, we also have our brand new website that we put out. That's CrawfordCountyGhostHunters.org. So definitely check that out. Look at all of our pictures, all of our different events, and definitely check out our profiles. If you're interested in anything paranormal at all, give us a like, give us a follow. We post a couple of times a week as well, whether or not we're doing investigations or not. And when we do, we'll definitely keep you updated. So again, thank you guys for listening to us, our first ever Crawford County, Illinois Ghost Hunters podcast. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night.
See you guys.